He gotta
Yes.
go, and this job gotta go. Let me say this. Why would you invite chaos?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you invite additional pain? Why would you invite burnout to sit at your table?
If you're not thinking about the people, what the hell are you doing?
You have to sit in the hard thing to understand the hard thing. When you are obesely overweight and you're trying to lose weight, you got to take all the clothes off and look at it from all angles.
What is going on, L&M family? Coming back at you with another amazing guest. Super duper accomplished. And I hinted at this before I hit record. Is like, folks, if you want to grow like massively and connect with super amazing people, start a podcast. It's a good excuse for a goofball like me to have the opportunity to speak to super, super accomplished folks. You're going to be meeting Dr. Carrie Graham. She's got over 25 years of training experience. And no, we're not talking about squats and burpees. We're talking about like real professional stuff. She's got a PhD in adult and workplace learning, which is a space that I play around in, but I'm sure I'm going to learn some things to level up my game because I'm just figuring it out as I go. And here's the cool thing. She schools businesses on training strategies that solve training program missteps. And full disclosure, I am probably or have been one of those training missteps. So we're going to get some goods on the training and all the other stuff. And if this is your first time here, you're listening to the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where you get to see how real people just like you are sharing their gifts and talents to leave this world better than they found it. I'm Jesse, your selfish servant, and we about to get to know Dr. Carrie. Dr. Carrie, how are you?
What's up, Jesse?
What's going on?
I am so honored to be here with you and with your audience. I love all of it. I am here for all of it. And it's one thing to share, like, oh, look at me, look at the professional things I've done. I've made so many missteps and I'm here to share them. Like, I'm just ready. Let me free myself of my missteps.
Oh, let's do it. I will absolve you of all of them. And here's a truth or maybe an observation from a personal observation. I mean, you're a doctor, right? Your PhD is not, it's not a small thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I've shared a lot of space with another amazing, accomplished woman who was working on her EDD.
Yeah.
And that is like life-consuming work just to get to that point. Of course, sacrifice, commitment, all the things. But the interesting thing is, in my head, I believe that folks with PhDs and advanced degrees are maybe come from a greater than now energy. But so far, the ones that I know personally, absolutely not. Super cool, down people, ready just to share and have some communication about how to make things better. Yeah. And so I applaud you for the humility and just being real. That's what it's about.
Thank you.
And what do you think? What do you say we start off with a super simple question?
I love it. I love it.
All right, here it is. How does one measure the ROI of training?
What? Oh my gosh. Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay. I need you to repeat the question.
Yeah, you like that? Came out of nowhere, huh?
I thought you were going to say, what's your favorite food? Okay. Okay. One more time. Say it again.
Yeah. So I like to start with the heavy one and then we'll have fun after that. I've been in training for a long time. No official, well, I do have a little bit of education on like how to do it specifically for adult learners.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends in the space. And the thing that's, I would say, hardest or maybe that could help folks that are in that space is the question of return on investment.
Yeah.
Because we know how impactful training and development is, but connecting it to like the actual KPIs that the organization is tracking seems to be the nut. If people could crack that, they would overcome a lot of resistance. That's my assumption. Yeah. And so that's where the question comes from. Do you have any cheat codes or advice for folks on how to connect the impact of the training to the KPIs of the business?
It is a fair question, and you're right. It is the one that everyone wants the answer to. And I believe the answer exists.
Mm.
I do. I do. And here's what it is. It's not a one size fits all answer. And what is the answer for one organization may not be the answer for another organization. So that's the first thing, right? Like we got to all stop looking for the quick fix and thinking, well, it worked for so and so, it worked for so and so, we'll just do the same thing. Teams don't even do that, right? They don't run the exact same plays, they work with what they got. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I encourage people to look at what they're training for and match it to who they're training. Because oftentimes people want to get from we're training for this objective to meet the KPI. And they just keep going from A, expecting to go from A to C, but they're missing the value in B. And if you continue to keep missing out on the people, right? Like you build a training, but it's not for the people, it's for to meet the KPI,
Yeah.
you're never gonna get a return on your investment. That's pretty basic. If you want a true return on your investment, you have to stop looking outside of your organization. You have to look within, and you must acknowledge who are these people, not, oh, they're middle managers, oh, they're only Gen Z, oh, they are individuals who are immigrants to this. You have to look beyond the demographics and identify, well, who are they as people and who are they as learners? Why? I'm going to climb up on my high horse right now.
Let's go. Come on.
Climb up here. Why in the world would you create a training that is content heavy? Content heavy. And it has to be, because that's the nature of your business, your work. And you're presenting it in a couple hours.
Just shoving it down.
But you expect your people, you might have some new individuals new to the organization, some people who are in job, like role transition within your organization, but yet you expect them to comprehend all of this information and then make sense of it on their own and apply it so you can meet your KPI. That just doesn't make good sense. It's not logical. It is not logical. It is not logical, Jesse. I just have to say.
Dr. Carrie, I'm going to tell you, like, you're speaking to my soul. You can see me dancing and getting excited over here, right? Because am I guilty of drowning people with every damn miscellaneous piece of detail information that they might need just in case?
Just in case.
Absolutely. Like the people that went through the first training I put together, I feel bad for them. And then the connection. I want to share 2 confessions with you so you can help folks understand, like, yeah, you see that out there, or maybe I'm just some psychopath that does it really wrong. So first situation, early on when I first got into like training, and it was not a formal thing. Like I was showing my friends how I did things at the bar or at a barbecue after hours hanging out, right? It wasn't like official training, but I was trying to teach them. Then it became my job. So I put a little training program together. And the words that I used was saying, you need to do this so that my job is easier. I wasn't saying that's precisely, but that was the message.
Right.
You need to do this to comply with our business objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember one friend of mine said, hey man, like this is good stuff, but it's like, it's only for you. What do you mean? It's for you guys. And so is that kind of an example of the bee hitting the bee?
Let's knock it in. So here's a story, a very short story that really pulled the veil for me. So at some point in my career,
But before that, we want to do the L&M family member shout out. And this one goes to Jennifer Lacey. And y'all, if you know me, No, she didn't pay me. She actually gave me this super awesome thought. And so Jennifer says, when I signed up to the Do the Damn Thing time management workshop facilitated by me, Jesse, I thought I would get a couple of cheat codes to sprinkle into my planning. I had no idea he would cause a major shift in my thinking around how I approach my goals. So, Jennifer, sister, I appreciate you, girl. Thank you for going out there and sharing that note with me. So, when you send me a note, make a comment on one of my posts, it doesn't have to be good. It could be anything. If it stinks, let me know it stinks. That gives me the opportunity to celebrate you in the future. So, share with your people, leave some stars, leave some comments, because I need the attention.
At some point in my career, I was a state employee. And yes, so everyone picture it, right?
Yeah.
Picture it. 2000, whatever. So I was a state employee, and as a state employee, I am a rule follower, and I attended a sexual harassment training along with 200 to 300 of my colleagues, my fellow state employee colleagues. And it was clear, we were all in an auditorium. It was clear that the institution invested some money to bring in a speaker. Well, I'm looking around. I was by myself, but I was looking around and people are asleep. This was when Candy Crush was a thing. Yeah, they're on their cell phones playing games. They're having side conversations, right? And I want your listeners to imagine you've been in that situation. But here's the thing. At the same time, that organization was in public litigation around sexual harassment.
Okay.
Now you tell me, you corralled all the people, so that's an expense, right? We're going to talk about ROI. You've taken people from their job, so that is an expense. You've paid to have a speaker on a topic that clearly you're presenting on because something else has happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's an expense. But you are in public litigation for a problem that you're attempting to solve right now. It's not making sense. As the young people say, make it make sense for me. So it is another example of creating a training that is performative. It's not addressing the issue in any shape or form. And you are still not meeting your KPI and you're not getting a return on investment. So that's just a story that I often share. I don't name names to protect others, but I have also made mistakes when I got into this. My career started in healthcare as a certified athletic trainer. So I worked clinically, but then when I left that, I entered education. Oh, it's a no wonder those students graduated. Those undergrads, let me tell you, Jesse,
Rough, huh?
it was like, shame on me. I'm embarrassed, right? Like in this moment, I'm embarrassed. But it's okay that people make mistakes. Like that is the part of it, right? It's okay to make mistakes. The key is you learn from the mistake. Don't be like that organization continuing to do the same thing over and over again.
Oh, you said perfect word. It's performative. It's about optics. It's so that we can say we did and mitigate our liability for something that we're reacting to.
Yes.
And you're wasting time.
Right? Like time.
Organizationally. Now, personally, I think the equivalent of that is I read 52 books in a year. Okay. So you read a book a week. And what the hell did you do with the information? What was the purpose? What was the through line of all the content that you were consuming? And we do these things. For me, it's about optics. It's about vanity. It's about being able to say, look what I did.
Yeah.
Rather than this is what I contributed.
Yes.
And I think, and we're going to get to this, but I think that totally ties to mission and values and this sort of really strategic thinking that couples with the training. But before we get there, I've done this and I want to share this because it's helped me help executives understand the fun that they bring to the table with their kind of, not with their unrealistic expectations. So I was presenting to a group of vice presidents from the central region, and I had my space on the agenda. What was buzzing around, and this was back when I had a real job. This was years ago. I don't have a real job now. And so the buzz was, man, and it was huge. It was this training. The people that went to it, they called it the brainwash thing. It got people excited. It was good stuff, but it was a whole week, right? It was a whole week of super, super intense all day training. It was awesome for me, maybe not for everybody. Anyways, the buzz was, Jesse, we're sending these people to this training. We're taking them offline to go to the thing. It's a whole week, da, da, da. And they're not experts at it. It's still wonky and clunky and right. Like they still like, what the hell's the point of this training if they're not? And I said, okay, I hear you. I hear you. So what I did on my little report out piece on the agenda, I said, okay, everybody stand up. I'm going to teach you the basic bachata steps. So I'm into Latin dancing, right? And bachata is easy. 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Left, right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's easy. So I walk them through the base, and they're like, "What in the world is this fool doing?" Come on. So they got up and they did it. And that's okay. We're gonna play some music. All right, let's do it to the beat. It was less than 5 minutes. All right, down. I did my report out and then at the end I said, okay, so I picked one. I said, executive number 1, please run us through a review of what you were trained on before I did my report out. And he's, bro, I remember 1, 2, 3, but I don't like. I was like, oh, so you're not ready to be an expert and train people? Well, no, that's okay. Executive number 2.
Yeah.
How about you? Yeah. I saw you were in the rhythm, like you got it. She said, Jess, like, I'm not ready to teach. Like, I would practice alone. I said, okay, this is exactly the same situation that you're imposing on people after going to training and expecting them to be expert level teachers of it. What do you think about that, Dr.
Say it again. Say it again. For the people in the back, Jesse, say it again. Say it again. Oh.
So you can guess, I wasn't very popular after that, but I made some progress with some of them. Okay, we understand what you're saying. Yeah. How do we bridge that gap? I'm like, that's the question. Here's the idea. Here's the support, the follow-up support to like the intensive. Now they have some context, some vocabulary, some awareness, but we need some follow-up support on actual deployment and doing and what to expect and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
You got it. You know what, Jesse? You got it. You PhD, whatever. You don't need it. You got it. Honestly. And that's what I tell people. It's not about, I mean, it is, but it's not really. The focus shouldn't be on the content. That's not it. Where people get it wrong is they don't focus on the people. That's the first thing. Even if they focus on the people and they got the content, it often stops there. To your point, it stops right there. What they don't do is follow it through and work on confidence, competence, application. Once you can move people through to that point, exactly what you were saying, you got to get them to where they're confident and competent to do the thing. That's it. But if we take it at a high level, Jesse, that's all about vision and strategy. And that's not where people want to sit right now. People want to go and do those things. Yep. But they don't want to take time and sit in a conference room and say, okay, fellow decision makers, we need a strategy around this.
Okay. So I know that's a super deep subject, and we've already poked at it twice. But for the L&M family members out there, what's the starter kit? What do you need to be not doing? How do people need to be thinking about this session, this strategy session around what's the strategy, what's the alignment with the business and the intended or targeted outcome of training and development? You got any easy pointers that you see folks miss or overlook, take for granted all the time?
Okay, I do. But before I get there, Jesse, you have an invitation to my dinner table. My husband and I would love to have you for dinner. I'm just going to say it because
Okay.
the
Man,
conversation.
I like food. I love food.
Okay. So, and the reason I extend the invitation is because you want to get deep and you want to have the deep conversations, and I love it. So, my recommendation for leaders who are saying, okay, let's do the strategy, here's some things to think about. Think about your organizational vision and mission. That's the
Okay.
first thing. What does it say? If at any point you have a point about the people in it, that vision needs to be in your strategy. That vision needs to be a part of your training as well.
Mm,
If in your vision it says community, the stories around community, training that is built on community learning and learning
mm.
loops and social learning, communities of practice, that needs to be in it. So, and I could go on and on, but I would say the first thing to start thinking about is what does our vision, our corporate organizational vision say? What does it say? And is it reflected in our training as a whole and in our existing strategy if you have one? That's the first thing.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
first.
It's gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say it's gigantic for two reasons. And like anybody outside of the construction industry, I'm not talking about you because that's not where I swim. But in the construction industry, I know tons of organizations that either don't have a clear vision, mission, values, which that's not bad because my money says the majority of businesses out there don't. But hey, you're making it, right? They'll let any fool start a business. I'm proof of that. If you
Yeah,
want to have, I guess what I'm hearing is when you want to amplify the investment of training and development, where to start is vision, mission, values,
yeah,
right? And it doesn't have to be.
that's it. And it's not creating them. So I would hope you already got them.
Yes.
I would hope so. So let's assume you have them. If you're thinking about where do we start with our strategy, this is really high level. It should be, well, what does it say? It's our guiding principle.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that it solely guides our revenue. It should guide everything that leads to the revenue.
Yeah.
So I would
Yes.
say, look at that. And because it should be reflected in your strategy and in your training in general. The other thing that I have, this is the first conversation I have with my clients, time and time again, is you need to get a crystal clear understanding of who your workforce is. Who are
Ooh.
they as people? You cannot keep building a training or establishing quote unquote leadership pipelines and leadership mentoring programs when you don't understand who these people are, what their needs are, not what your needs are, but what are their needs. So I
Yeah.
would say if you're thinking about strategy, like high level strategy from the time someone signs the agreement of working for you, the ink signs all the way through exiting, you want to think about your vision and mission and who are the people? Who are they as learners? You have to.
I'm sure that leaving this world better than you found it doesn't happen by accident. And I want to help you spend more time making this world better for yourself and the people you care about. So I want to invite you to the next Do the Damn Thing Time Mastery Workshop because we're going to be having some fun. We're going to be taking all those goals, those ideas, those projects, those dreams, the things that you keep putting off because of the commitment you make to work and the commitment you make to family and the commitment you make to everybody else except for yourself. When you get those out of your head and finally come up with a plan, make the space, find the time for you to make those things real, for you to actually get the ball moving on the things that are going to give more flavor and meaning to your own personal life. Check the show notes for the link. I hope to see you there. And back to the show. Powerful. If you're not thinking about the people, what the hell are you doing?
Well, that's it.
Find some YouTube links and let them watch videos.
That's it. So I was at a breakfast this morning, and a guy who is the president of the closest hospital to me was also at that meeting. Oddly enough, we went to undergrad together. Oddly enough.
Okay.
We were just chatting, and I asked him, I said, what's your approach to supporting and retraining your team? And he was like, well, I've done this for our hospital workers and this. And I said, right there, I don't need to talk to you as a potential client because you view and understand that your workforce is your number one resource. You are not acknowledging and treating and supporting your employees as your number one resource, your number one asset. Keep on. And I've said this before, keep treating people nasty and not supporting them and not uplifting and nurturing them. You will continue to have a turnover issue. You will continue to have a problem.
Oh, I love it. So your people are not the problem, they're the answer.
Yes.
And when you start behaving that way, the tide will turn.
It will. It will.
Is that fair?
It will. I've seen it time and time again. And so here's an example, and it's a mistake that I made and I learned from it, and I'm happy to share it. So I was doing a very long series of trainings with a group of individuals. And every time I would go to meet with them, they were not prepared in the way that I expected.
Okay.
And I was so frustrated. And so at the beginning, right, like I would just keep pushing and it wasn't happening. So one day I went to them and I said, I don't understand, why is it that you are not prepared when we meet? Every time we meet. And so I need you to help me understand. I had drew a lot of assumptions about this group of people, a lot of assumptions. What they told me was, I have this obligation outside of this workshop or this series, and these other obligations. And it is I don't have the time in the day to do what you're asking. A number of them said that. A few others said, I don't know how to do what you're asking me to do.
Oh.
Just period. Like, I don't know how. And you keep asking me to do it, and I want to do it, but I just don't know how. Fair enough. Someone else, a couple other people said, I don't have access to those resources.
Damn. Yep.
And Jesse, when I tell you I was humbled in that moment.
Oh, I bet.
I just stood there. There was no blame. Like myself, them, no one was blaming. We were having just a candid conversation about what's the problem? Why isn't this working out? And given what they were all saying, and then one person would say something and someone else would agree, oh yeah, I'm struggling in that way too. I realized, damn, Carrie, like you got it all wrong. You made a bunch of assumptions. You assumed that people had the resources. You assumed that they had the time. You assumed that they had the interest. And so you were pushing based on assumptions as opposed to truly understanding who they are and what their needs are.
Yeah.
So that totally changed it for me. And I became a better educator. I became a better facilitator. Quite honestly, I became a better person. And I have instituted that. I've encouraged people as a consultant. I've said, you have to make it about them. It's not about you. Who are they? And time again, my clients always say, Carrie, I never thought of that. And when we're done, they're like, man, that was it right there. That was it. Thank you for sharing that. but it came out of my mistake.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And that's the value, right, of the missteps.
Yeah.
When we pay attention to them. Now, what I want to point out that you did that seems duh, but no, it's not, because we rarely do it. You said, okay, the outcome that I want is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
I keep telling them what to do, and I keep getting the same outcome. So the system was designed perfectly to produce the outcome you were having.
Mm-hmm.
Telling them to change didn't impact the outcome. So you said, let me find out why.
Yeah.
Let me ask, and more importantly, listen.
Yes.
Why, what's struggling, what is the barrier and contributing to the break in the system.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I've been there. We're like, man, I suck. I can't believe I've been berating y'all this whole time. I should just ask, dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying me.
No, I was saying the same thing when I got home that day. I was like, you idiot. Come on, Carrie. Do better. Do better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I can say I do better. And it's because
Yes.
of that. And something you said, right? You said that I listened. I did. However, Jesse, let's talk about your listeners.
Ooh.
How many of you collect surveys? How many of you did assessments and you're sitting on all this data and that's where it stops. You're sitting on the data. You are
Yes.
not using the data to make informed decisions, again, about the strategy. Don't make these decisions in reaction to, well, how's it going to get us to the KPI?
Right.
No. If you took the time to survey your workforce, you need to sit down with the data, let it sink in, check your pride at the door.
Yep.
Because it's going to hurt.
Yep.
Make it make sense, and then make decisions based on what you see.
Oh my goodness. I love it. And you're right. So many people out there, organizations, and even individuals gather all kinds of survey data and don't do squat with it. And for me, I'm like, wait a minute. What am I filling this out for? What are we going to do with it? What do you mean? I was like, well, I know you want me to fill out the survey, but what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Not that, because I don't care. Like, I'm not worried about somebody judging me, but are you going to use it?
Yep. Yep.
And if you can answer, yeah, we're going to use it for X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. I'll fill it out. If you say, well, it's because they told us we got to do it. Guess what? I ain't filling it out because you're just wasting my time.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to do anything. And you keep repeating that. And what are you signaling to your people? That everything is performative, everything is weak sauce, and they get further and further disengaged.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, Dr. Carrie. So, folks, if you can't tell, she got some game. And so here's what I'm wondering right now. Did you ever go to lock-ins back in the day with the pizza joint and it was music and dance? You remember those days?
Jesse, I'm going to be honest. I do remember them, but I was such a shy kid. I never went.
Really? Oh.
Really? I never went because I was so shy. But I do remember them and I wanted to go. And my mother even a couple times was like, don't you want to go? I'll pay for it. I was too shy. I was like,
okay. So, and I love that. And can you guess, I was shy too. Out in the middle of the floor, I had my dance routine with my buddies and we were tearing it up. So, but back then, the shy days, right? When people were out there messing around, were you committed fully? Was it super clear to you that you were going to be a PhD in organizational development, training, all the magical things you're doing now?
No. Where I am today was never early on part of my goal. It is truly divinely ordained. I firmly believe that. So, short story, as a really shy kid, I wanted to be an attorney. I did. I wanted to be a lawyer, but my best friend at the time said, Carrie, you'll never be a good lawyer because you don't like to argue. And she was right. And so I was like, yeah, that's not for me. That's not for me. But so I ended up going to undergrad. I have a bachelor's degree in sports medicine. I wanted to be the athletic trainer for the Georgetown Hoyas men's basketball team and wanted to Thompson in the day. That was what I wanted. I didn't work for Georgetown. I did have a chance to meet John Thompson Sr., but
Nice.
I was on that path. And
Okay.
my transition from Division One athletics to the classroom, that's not something that I had wanted or
Mm,
planned. It was an opportunity, and I said yes.
okay.
Getting the PhD actually was out of frustration. And
Really?
it really was, because I was at this sexual harassment training as a healthcare
Mm,
provider. I had to like go to conferences every year to maintain my board certification. And what I found was, while I was growing, not only in my skill set, but in my goals, my personal goals,
yeah.
career goals, the conferences weren't meeting me in that regard.
Ah,
And because of that, right, I was spending money, I was using my
yep.
vacation time, I was growing more and more frustrated. And I was getting closer to like late 30s, 40s. Like,
Mm,
why is this the case? I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. And it was a growing conversation among my
yeah.
colleagues. They were feeling the same way. And that's when the opportunity presented that, okay, I think I might need to pursue some other coursework or degree. And that's how this came around. The very first course that I took was workplace learning. And I honestly, Jesse, I felt like I was in therapy every Tuesday of the week. Because I was like, I kept seeing
Yes.
myself. Yes, everything we were reading about projects, I was like, this is me. This is
Hmm.
me. This is my experience. And that's what really helped me realize we have a problem. And it's not just
Yeah.
in this country, it's pervasive
Sure.
worldwide. And I've listened to the call, or I've answered the call that God has laid out before me of, Carrie, you have an opportunity. I've prepared you with skills and experiences and a growing passion to support businesses so that their people are filled up and not depleted.
Mm, mm,
I just,
yes.
I've been the employee who was like, why am I at this training? Why am I here? And angry. And then I went home and I was angry and frustrated. I do my work for them. I do my work for the person so that they can go home to their loved ones and be full and present, so that they
Yeah.
can participate in their community and be excited. And that when they are alone, they don't feel weighed down. They
Mm,
actually feel inspired. That's all I want. Like when the good Lord calls me home and I take my last breath and I have to give an account for my life, I want to say, God, Father, I used everything you gave me to make the lives better of others. That's all I'll
mm.
be able to say. That is all I want to be able to say.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is going to be a weird question.
Mhm.
And also, I just want to recognize, and folks, if you didn't catch the theme there, is what I heard is what gives you fulfillment is serving others, improving the experience of other human beings, which I think is it's the keystone. It doesn't have to be training and organizational transformation. It just has to be something that contributes to the life of others to have the fulfillment and being able to show up at the end and say, I did it. You gave it to me and I did it.
Yeah,
Now what you got for me? What's next? So I
totally.
love that. Now, you mentioned you're in your mind, you were going to be an attorney, and then your friend said, wait a minute, maybe not. And so you went down a path, and then you saw another path, and then maybe kept going down deeper down that path. So here's the weird question. Do you feel like you have a cycle of time in which you need something heavier to chew on, or a new mission, a new phase of growth to explore? And if you do, what's that duration? I'll give you an example. Back in the day, before I became a house cat, I could see that every 3 to 5 years, I got promotions, I'd take on a new big giant challenge, and then I'd start getting bored and I'd start causing problems and getting in trouble. And then I got a new challenge, and it was like a 3 to 5 year cycle. It's sped up since then. So I'm wondering, do you see a similar pattern in on your path looking back?
That is a great question. I don't think it's an odd one at all. And it was something that I realized maybe 15 years ago, is that
Ah,
it is, in fact, I am on, like you, a 3 to 5 year, more like a 4 to 5 year path or cycle where I realize, I'm bored. And what it is, I want to be very clear because I've worked with young people and I've seen this happen time again. I want to be clear that is not a bad thing.
mm,
And quite frankly, you would hope that that occurs. And the reason I say that is every day that passes, we all continue to evolve and get older. And if you are not growing in some capacity, something's wrong.
yeah.
Something is wrong. And when I realized that was I was working with college students. And at first in Division 1 athletics, it's great. The thing that evolves is the sports world, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really an issue, but when I got in the classroom, I remember very distinctly, I got to a point where I said, wow, they keep being 18, but I keep getting older.
Whoa.
And that for me was like, it was mind blowing because I'm like, why is it getting harder?
Mm,
They're still 18, right? Yeah, they're still eight. And I kept telling myself, they're still getting 18. Why is it harder? Why is it harder? And what I wasn't realizing is, yes, they are 18, but I am 30, 35, 40, 45
mm,
while they're still 18. So I use that as an example that as we age, as we have more life experience, as we have more struggles and successes in life, I would hope that people want a change and the change feeds different parts of their lives. I'll be very honest with you, Jesse. I have, I believe in Jesus Christ. My faith has always been a very private part of my life. And given where I worked, separation of church and state, and that's just how I lived.
yep.
As I've gotten older and had various life experiences, the value of my faith coming to the forefront has become more important to me. So I've evolved very privately and very intimately, but that has impacted my work. And so, to your original question, my work has evolved. And
Yes.
me wanting to solve, like digging in hardcore and deep and not taking the easy path and working with people on their strategies is because my faith has evolved and it's pushing me. It's pushing me to say, Carrie, be a better person for others, show up stronger and harder for others, be courageous for others, do the thing that's uncomfortable for you, but it's going to help and support others. So, yes, I do. Every so often, I get bored, and it's not simply, I've done that before. I don't want to. It's for me, it's not about that. It is,
Right.
I am growing and I evolving and I'm honoring that evolution ultimately.
Oh, it's beautifully said. You're growing into your confidence,
Mhm.
you're evolving into it, and you're honoring it.
Mhm.
Because, yes, that's the ultimate. And I also, like me personally, I recognize there was 20 years of my life where I was like playing the same year over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that was largely because of the life that I had designed, right? I had enormous debt. I had all these other things that like I didn't have space to like wander and roam and explore. I just had to go make that money to pay the bill so they wouldn't repo the truck, like for real.
Real life.
So, and I'm sharing that. So like, folks, if you're not in this like rapid cycle, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you start seeing it and sensing it, to use your word, honor it, because it is the calling. It is the, like in my brain, I think of those little signals that say, hey, Jess, look at this, pay attention to this. There's this thing you should explore. That's the whispers, right?
Yeah.
The whispers are telling me, hey, there's something greater out there. You just got to figure out how to be better to do it.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of the coin, I know several people that have grand ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They start down the path and there's always friction, right? Because we know change, there's friction with change, regardless of whether it's positive, requested, or imposed, it's always pain.
Yeah.
So they start down this path thinking, hey, I see another vision, I'm evolving. And then 6 months later, man, that was too hard. They pick up another path. Man, what guidance would you offer somebody that's not prepared to apply the discipline and sacrifice to overcome the friction?
Man, that's good. That's a good one. I would say a couple things. And the first that comes to mind is that did it for me early on in my life is what's the alternative?
Ooh.
And I'm uncomfortable just to hear myself say it. Honestly, I think I'm getting nauseous thinking about it, right? Like, I really am like, what's the alternative? So when I was an undergrad, I was in this athletic training program and it was hard. It was a hard year for a lot of reasons. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And all of my friends were older, so they were seniors. And I remember distinctly, it was the last day to change your major, change your courses. So the clock is ticking. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And they kept saying, okay, Carrie, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But what will you do?
Mm.
And I couldn't answer it. I was like, I don't know. What was the alternative? I didn't have one. And so I was like, this is it. And so I kept pushing. When I had to I don't think I've ever publicly said this. I know I haven't publicly said this. And a lot of people, oh my God.
Exclusive.
I don't want to say it, but I'm going to. Oh, so I was board certified. I didn't pass the first time, and passing the first time is a huge deal. I didn't pass it. And I remember thinking, what are you going to do, Carrie? What you going to do? And that's what you going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't have any other choice. There was an alternative. As Kevin Hart would say, all my eggs were in this basket. That has followed me over the years is, what's the alternative, Carrie? What are you going to do? You've invested. And people say, coming from the world of athletics, people say, oh, quitting is bad. No. Sometimes, I was about to swear, Jesse. Sometimes quitting is the right decision, depending on what the situation is.
Yes.
I would say for people who are at that place where they don't know how to handle the friction, it's understanding what your alternative is. There is a consequence and a benefit to all of it.
Yep.
And you have to understand both to make the right decision. There are days for me as a consultant when it's not gravy. I'm going to be honest, right? Like, it's not gravy. I just want to be like, screw all of this. Lord, give me something else. I'm not the one for this.
This ain't easy like they said it
Or
was.
this, I know you don't make mistakes, but I don't know if I'm the right one, right? I don't know. But I always take time alone and sit with it. Sit with the frustration. Sit with the not having confidence, the doubt. Sit with all of it.
Mm.
Acknowledge it for what it is and then move forward. And for me, when I sit in it, in the muck and mess of it, for people who've ever been deep in debt, you can't not look at the numbers and think you're going to get out of it. You got to sit
Yep.
in it.
Uh-huh. Yes.
When you are obesely overweight and you're trying to lose weight, you got to take all the clothes off and look at it from all angles. You have to sit in the hard thing to understand the hard thing. And when you understand the hard thing, you can change the hard thing or you can move forward through the hard thing.
Yes.
And businesses, leaders, you have to do the same thing. You have to sit in the muck and the mire and the hardness of it. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Beautiful, excellent, profound advice, introspection. And first, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that thing. Like I'm excited. I got a little special treat out of this.
Honestly, I don't think my husband knows it, Jesse, to tell you the truth. I think I might have to go tell him after this. I gotta go tell him. I don't think he knows.
And I love that you pointed out, like, because here, and I'm not going to do a good job of this, but I am, if you can't tell, I'm like super intense, and quitting is not an idea I subscribe to or advocate for.
Yeah.
But I know there is value in quitting. And so, just for clarity, folks, I'm not saying don't quit and keep doing, because I've tried that. I've tried it in relationships.
Yeah.
I've tried it in jobs.
Yes.
I've tried it in hobbies.
Yes.
And like the common thread is, because I'm obsessive, I end up losing joy.
Yes.
I end up underserving the person in front of me because I'm not going to quit. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do this thing. And the pattern reveals itself, like I said, in hobbies, in relationships, in jobs and assignments. Like, it was the same thing. I got so, because I wasn't going to quit. I can't quit. I'm not going to quit. What are they going to say about me if I quit? I'm not a quitter. Well, right. And then I'm just like abusing myself.
Yep.
Eventually I figured out, hey, fool, like, it's stealing joy from you. It's taking so much energy for you to get good at the thing that you're neglecting everybody and everything else.
Yes.
Time to quit.
Yep.
Now, on the other end of it, here's something I do. Tell me what you think about it. When I decide to start a new, and this is real new, like we'll say the last 4 or 5 years of my life, like when I started this podcast, I didn't know what I was doing. And I also don't want to start something and not at least get the lesson, which you said, right? What is the lesson in this thing? Yeah. It may not be your career. Still not making money off this thing, but I know what the lesson is, right? I can connect with amazing people.
Right.
And so what I did, and this is what I do now, even with new ideas, it's going to be 6 months or 1 year. Am I willing and prepared to do the work for 6 months or a year with absolutely no return on investment, no recognition, no likes, no shares, no comments? Yep. If the answer is yes, then I'm going to do it. If the answer is I'm not sure, why even start?
Right.
But 6 months to anything less than 6 months, and I use the 6-month time block for things that I'm going to be paying money on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a year, if it's just my time, it's just my time. But if it's cash, girl, like I don't like spending money that way. But I gotta, because I know that the start, there's always friction. It's always hard. It's difficult. And reflecting back, 6 months to a year is enough time to pull data points and evaluate the signals to say, okay, this is flatlining, this is declining, this is going up, and then make a decision to add time to that. What do you think about that?
I think that's fair. And I think it's healthy to give yourself 6 months to a year to experience, to
Yes.
explore, to learn some lessons. And here's the thing about learning lessons that I've always told people, learn that that's not for you. That's a lesson.
That's it.
That's
That's
a
it.
lesson.
Yes, 100%.
And that's a very valuable lesson that you need to have in order to go in the direction or do the thing that's going to feed you. I tried that as well. When I started consulting full time, I had another area of work that I was doing. And I was like,
This ain't
the
it.
idea, like you said, the idea is nice and I can serve in that way. But for me, the lesson was it's not feeding my soul.
Yes.
So what's the
Yes.
point? What's the point?
Yep. Yep.
So I let that go. But I think that's fair because, and the reason I say it's fair is because you go into it acknowledging this might be challenging and hard.
Yep.
But I know there's an end point. And at the end point or the timeline, so it's at the 6 month mark or at the year mark, that's when you say,
Yes.
let me assess. I'm going to assess. Is it good, bad, and different? Okay, I got my answer. What do I do now?
Yes.
And that's the thing. You have to have a point of assessment to determine the next path.
That's it.
That's
Yep. Is there a change in direction? Is there a tweak? Do I get off the path? 100%.
Absolutely. Look, even have you evolved in that time? Going back to the 18 and on, are you evolving in that time? Did your life circumstance change? Fine. And so now it's not possible or it's not feasible. Or did things evolve and you're like, this is it. I found it.
Yes. Clarity.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I just got to say that Dr. Carrie, you just gave all my exes affirmation when they decided that's not for me when they kicked me down the road. But so thank you for that.
I'm going to say the same. And to your point about relationships, I'll just put it out there. I was in a relationship that I did it was more work than the return. And it was both in a personal relationship as well as some work relationships that
Oh, yeah.
right? Where I was all in, I was working really hard at it. It was like uphill, constantly uphill. And now I'm climb. Nah, girl, you better than that.
Yeah.
He gotta
Yes.
go and this job gotta go because you cannot, let me say this. Life is so precious. Life is so precious. When we strip away our titles and the things that we have and all of it is about experiencing the world around us. It is an opportunity for beauty and it is hard. And so why would we invite, and I tell my friends this, why would you invite chaos? Why would you invite additional pain? Why would you invite burnout to sit at your table? You wouldn't.
Yes.
You would not. You would not. So it is your responsibility.
Lena, got it.
We're not having it. We're not having it. And it's hard. Like you talk about the moments of friction. And I think our missteps help reveal if something is in fact the place we need to be or not. And so our mistakes, our missteps are not bad things. They're simply a part of life that help us gain understanding for this beautiful thing that we call life.
Oh, that's got to be a clip. I know it's going to. Renee, you need to cut that out. That was awesome. All right. So I have one softball closing question.
Okay.
But before I get to that, you mentioned that you consulting, you have your own business. And would you mind letting people know if they don't already love you, then they could just move on? But the ones that are falling in love with it say, man, I need to get in contact with Dr. Carrie here. How do you serve and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you so much for that opportunity, Jesse. So I am committed to serving small and mid-sized businesses that don't have an L&D team, but they want to serve their workforce well. And so I can help you with your training and development strategy. I can help you with putting together a training program and pipeline that really serves your workforce. So that's the place I sit, and that's where I'm committed to working. People can find me at drcarriegraham.com or on LinkedIn, all those things. But the thing that I encourage people to think about is I require you to think differently. I am not going to say this is a one size fits all. You have to do it. Oh, she has a PhD. She's going to tell me do it this way. We're going to do some deep, intimate work in terms of what data are you sitting on and not using? Why are you not using it? That's a question that we're not going to sweep that under the rug, right? But really looking at who are your people? Oh, okay. So if these are your workforce, who are they as learners? Oh, you don't know? Why don't you know who they are as learners? So anyone that really wants to do right by their workforce from a training perspective and is willing to pull the curtain back and say, this is really where we are. We're not proud of it. We're not happy about it. We really don't want the public to know. Like, I'm okay with that. And please know that I view that as an invitation into your house. It is intimate and it is private, and I honor that. And so I will ask hard questions and push people to do things, but it is all in the spirit of let's make you better so that your people are better. And if they are better, your business is going to be better.
It's plain and simple. Oh my God. All right. I will absolutely make sure that your links are in the show notes so people can get a hold of you, connect with you. And we connected via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you're not sure, just connect with Dr. Carrie on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You post, right? Like perspectives and ideas that, I could go do that right now. I could go try that right now. I don't need the intimate intervention.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're just not ready and you want to test the waters. Yeah. I know you post stuff that's helpful and applicable to people in business for
Jesse,
sure.
I also want to say one of the things that to your point, like people may not be ready and they're wondering. So you've heard, like we've had this crazy conversation, but on my website, there is in fact a free assessment. It's a training assessment, and it touches on all the things you and I have been talking about. And so it's an opportunity for people to just look at it and say, oh, okay, we weren't thinking about these things, or we weren't thinking about these things, or we got this part okay. And so there's 6 categories of areas that really need to be considered when you're working to improve on your training program. And that's on my website. So you can just go and download it. And I don't want anything from you for it except for you to do better.
Oh, I love it. All right. So we're absolutely going to make sure the assessment is available. And I'm going to be brainstorming on how to blow that up because of the dual benefit, right? It'll benefit the individual that's doing the assessment, and it'll benefit my new friend, Dr. Carrie, right? It may turn into a lead. So let's blow that bad boy up. Okay. Are you ready for the little kindergarten, simple, easy question?
Well, for one, I don't trust you on that, but I'm ready for it. I don't trust you.
Good. You already know me.
Yeah, but I'm ready.
I love it. All right. And again, you've been super gracious with your time, your insight, even the vulnerability of sharing a new secret. I feel like I need to get tissues for this answer because I think your answer is going to be profound and impactful. And so here's the question. What is the promise you are intended to be?
Yeah, I think we do need some tissue, Jesse.
Mm,
I think we do need some tissue. And the reason I say that is because that question is making me look at parts of who I am that I don't often look at and acknowledge when you say the word promise. So when I came into this world, there was a promise on my life. And I think the world, our experiences, our doubt cloud what the promise is. And I have been on a journey to find that. And I didn't use the word promise, but now that you say it, that's what I've been looking for. And in my own quiet way, the promise that's on my life is to be a light in others. And yeah, I need a tissue. I don't think I ever realized that until you asked that question. And so I am so thankful that you asked me that question because I can tell that how my life has evolved, particularly in the last 6 years, that I've really committed to being a light for other people
mm,
in moments that may seem insignificant
yeah.
to me going to bring my trash to the curb in the morning and seeing a little girl with a hijab on, and she's the only one, for me to say to her, I love your hijab. It's so beautiful, like you. And for her to turn to me and say, you know what this is? Thank you. I know that I put light into her life in that moment. For me to see an aging woman and to tell her, I absolutely love how beautiful your gray hair is.
Mm,
That is why I am here. And I think oftentimes I overlook that. I overlook that I look for moments to offer that to other people. But I think I'm realizing that is my purpose and the promise that's on my life that I can offer other people. So thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you.
it's amazing. Thank you. And I'm getting chills over here and fighting back the tears. And folks, go forth and do likewise. Right? What you just talked about is simple human stuff, helping somebody else understand that you see them.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge investment. It's recognizing something about them and helping them see the greatness that you see. So, wow. Thank you. Did you have fun?
I did have fun, Jesse, but I also, to your point that you just made to your listeners, I said something to you before you hit record, but I want to say it publicly. I said, thank you. Thank you for being Jesse Hernandez and for being a incredibly kind, professional man of Latino descent who's taken up space publicly on LinkedIn and in the world. That must be acknowledged. I am so incredibly proud to see your face, to hear your voice in all of it, in all of what you bring. It is so important. And me making a comment to a child on the way to school, a stranger at the grocery store, they matter to those individuals. And my prayer is that it matters to you, that in the space that you're holding for me, that I equally acknowledge who you are and what you are doing. It is important. It is so incredibly important. And I pray that others acknowledge that as well. Jesse, I'm so proud of you for being here. And this is our first time actually meeting face to face, but I am just so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for you.
Oh my goodness. The feeling is mutual. Thank you. Thank you for sticking it out all the way to the end. I know you got a whole lot of stuff going on. And in appreciation for the gift of time that you have given this episode, I want to offer you a free PDF of my book, Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. The link for that bad boy is down in the show notes. Hit it. You don't even have to give me your email address. There's a link in there. You just click that button and you can download the PDF. And if you share it with somebody that you know who might feel stuck or be caught up in self-destructive behaviors, that would be the ultimate. You sharing that increases the likelihood that it's going to help one more person. And if it does help one more person, then you're contributing to me becoming the promise I am intended to be. Be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace!